Hey there, welcome back to Relationships Rebuilt. Today's question: have you ever felt like your world came crashing down because of a betrayal? Because today's topic is one that hits most people really, really hard, and that's broken trust. You've probably been there, okay? I mean, when everything seemed fine, and then boom, something happens that shatters your trust in your partner. And that could be a betrayal, dishonesty, or just a simple pattern of neglect. It's like everything you knew about your partner was shattered in an instant. The one person you love, the one you thought you could rely on, suddenly feels like a stranger. And that leaves you lost and unsure if your relationship can ever be the same again. So if you're struggling with a breach of trust in your relationship, you're in the right place. Stay tuned. Now, trust is the bedrock of any relationship, but when it's broken, you're left wondering, can it be fixed? Well, I'm here to tell you the answer is yes, but not overnight, and it's going to take a lot of work. So, to help you along, let's start by defining trust and why it is so critical to your relationship. Now, just before I start, I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever been in a situation where the trust was broken? And, what was the hardest part of rebuilding it? If you've been through that experience, please drop your thoughts in the comments because I read every single one and I will respond to you. Okay, let's dive in. Firstly, what is trust? It's not just a feeling, it's built on three solid emotional pillars. The first is consistency. Does your partner's behavior align with their promises? And if they say they'll help you with something, do they follow through? I say this because repeatedly breaking promises weakens trust, and that's entirely natural. You cannot rely on them. Secondly, dependability. Do you feel you can really rely on your partner when things get tough? Because at every part of your life together, things will get tough. And if you're going through a difficult time, do you feel like they're showing up for you or do they distance themselves? And the third pillar is empathy. Do you feel you can share your fears, your struggles, your rawest, most difficult emotions without worrying that they'll just be dismissed or used against you if there's an argument, for example? Now, all this seems tough, right? Trust is it's a sacred thing in any relationship. But broken trust can be repaired. It's not about going back to what you had, but about creating something new, which is stronger. And the more open and honest you are about what you need to establish trust, the stronger that will be. So I'm now going to break down the steps you need to take to rebuild trust in your relationship. And the first step in rebuilding it is what I call radical accountability. Sounds political, but it's not. It's radical accountability. Now, that might seem simple, but it's actually one of the hardest parts of the process, which is why I put it first. And I'm going to tell you that radical accountability means it's not just saying I'm sorry and hoping it's going to be enough. It's about fully understanding and owning up to the impact of your actions and acknowledging the pain that you caused. It's about saying, look, I know I messed up and I know how it's hurt you. So to help you with that, let's look at a real example. A few months ago, I worked with a couple, Jen and Mark. They've been married for about 30 years. Now, after all this time, you would have thought trust would be there, but Mark had been secretly texting his ex-wife. He swore nothing physical happened, but when Jen found out, it crushed her. Imagine after 30 years, she felt humiliated, angry, and worst of all, like she wasn't enough. Mark's response to this was what a lot of people do in his position. He got defensive. He said, it's just texting. We saw each other recently and we started texting. You're overreacting. But that made things worse. Jen just didn't need an apology. She needed to see Mark, acknowledge her pain and to validate how she was feeling. And it was only then that things changed. And that's the hardest part of all, taking full responsibility, no excuses. And that is where most people fall short and they will fail. They want to explain or deflect, but without radical accountability for the problem or the breach of trust, the relationship cannot heal. And, the moment Mark started to look Jen in the eye and just say, you're right to feel hurt, I betrayed your trust, and I really hate that I made you feel that way, that was radical accountability. It's not just admitting you did something wrong, it's showing that you understand the impact of what you did. Yes, the impact of what you did. So if you've ever had trust broken, what's something you wish the other person had done differently? Again, start a conversation in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Okay, step 2. You need to commit to being transparent. And what does that mean? So in the example above with Jen and Mark, it's not just about sharing passwords. It's about creating a whole culture of honesty in your relationship, of being real. And being transparent can be really scary because it needs vulnerability and willingness to feel uncomfortable. And one of the biggest mistakes people make after a betrayal is to say, oh, well, let's just move on. But trust doesn't work like that. It doesn't build, it's not fed like that. The person who is hurt needs reassurance, not just for a week or a month, but consistently over time. So with my clients, Mark and Jen, Mark transparently said, okay, I'm keeping my phone unlocked. It's open to you to look at whenever. And more importantly, it meant checking in with Jen when she felt triggered, because there were triggers. He instead of saying, "Well, don't you still trust me?" he'd say, "Listen, I know it's hard for you. If we need to talk about it," he even said a regular time each week to just talk about how they were feeling, with no distractions, definitely no phones, just open and honest conversation. You need to share those deepest fears, needs, and emotions, and create a safe space for vulnerability. So now that we've covered accountability and transparency, the third step is about rebuilding emotional connection, because that's what trust is all about, feeling connected. And it's crucial because trust is not just about fixing what's broken, it's about making a relationship stronger than it was before. It's not a one time fix. Rebuilding connection is all about consistently investing in a relationship day in, day out with small repeated actions. And that's what you need to build lasting trust. Going back to Jen and Mark, they didn't just want to patch things up and paper over the cracks. They wanted to truly reconnect with each other, so they made a plan. And it's one that you can follow too. So the first thing they did, or I told them that, okay, make a plan, was to schedule weekly date nights, no phones, no distractions, just focus time together. And to secondly, they started a nightly gratitude ritual, just sharing one thing they appreciated about being with the other person. It would be amazing how much that affirmation will help your bonding. And thirdly, they committed to deep listening. No, don't interrupt each other. Just let each other be fully heard, no matter how long it takes. Even if the other person is going over the same thing you've heard before, be patient, okay? Because those small changes in that situation created big changes, and that will work for you. And I'd love you to try one of these small actions today. And when you have, drop it in the comments. Again, love feedback, and I will read out each and every question that you have. And on that subject, let's just deal with one of the most common questions that I get. And that is, can trust really be fully restored? I'm going to fudge my answer simply because it is complicated. I can't give you a yes or no. It's $1 million question. And the fact of the matter is, it depends. Some relationships can be rebuilt, but others may have suffered too much damage. For some couples, the damage may be just too deep, and a lot depends on the severity of the betrayal and whether both partners are willing to do the necessary work. I have a quick guide for you, which you may use to think, okay, whether you can trust your partner again. And they're key factors that really determines whether that trust can just be rebuilt. Firstly, the depth of the betrayal. Was it a one-off single mistake, or is it a repeated pattern of behavior? You'll probably know the answer to this if you're honest with yourself. But that's the first thing. You just really have to look at how deep that betrayal is. Okay, people can make mistakes and people can learn not to make that mistake again, but you have to determine whether it is just the way they are wired. Secondly, you have to determine the willingness to change, not just with the partner who's betrayed the trust, but in yourself, because there may well have been triggers which have caused that betrayal. If you take accountability of that, you may find the betrayal actually easier to stomach. Again, goes back to how deeply you feel. Look at the relationship as it was. Was there real love and respect to begin with, or was that trust always shaky? Because you probably, again, know the answer to that, but you have to dig below the surface and really look yourself in the eye and say, well, I always had a doubt about that. So really just be honest with yourself, be raw. And so in conclusion to that question, some betrayals just cut so deep that it isn't possible to rebuild trust. And, sometimes walking away is the healthiest choice. Now, One thing you mustn't do, I really would suggest you don't do, is just chat to random strangers on Reddit to get answers. It's better if you invest in yourself and your relationship and get professional help, be that counseling, coaching, um, your therapy. It's a false economy, and it gives you false hope to think that a stranger out there who's online, who doesn't know you or your situation, has all the answers for you for free. Do invest in your relationship in the same way you would invest in going to a gym to get fit, or learning to drive so you can drive a car. That investment in your relationship will save you pain, time, and money in the long run. And you will have learned the skills that you need to make your current or future relationship, if you can't save it, into a success. Okay, let's have a look at another uh, regular question I get, which is forgiveness. How do I forgive someone who's just broken my heart, who's broke by breaching my trust? And again, forgiveness isn't about excusing what happened, it's about releasing the hold it has on you. There is a book called Radical Forgiveness by Colin Tipping, which offers a framework for letting go of anger and resentment, because that will eat away at you. It helps sometimes just simply to write it down or just talk to yourself and explore why that betrayal hurt you so much, and assess whether it is a deep betrayal or whether it's a surface betrayal to which you may have contributed in some way. All right, that forgiveness will help you process the pain and to begin to heal yourself. So I've gone through a lot today. It's a deep, difficult subject. So let's just recap. That rebuilding trust isn't easy. Okay. The three pillars I suggest are radical accountability, transparency, and consistent effort to reconnect. It's possible if both partners are committed to work. Now, take that with you. Let me know how you're getting on if you are in this situation, or I'm open to suggestions as to how you've rebuilt trust. I love these stories, and I will share them with my community. So if you want more tips on rebuilding trust or any other subject relating to relationships, please do subscribe, like, and share to this video, and let me know. What the hardest part of trusting someone is for you. I look forward to hearing from you, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.